Some people don't just change habits. They don't adjust routines, tweak goals, or try a little harder. They erase the board. They close the book and start a new one entirely. New city, new career, new mindset, new version of themselves. And if you've ever felt a strange relief in walking away and rebuilding from scratch, this isn't chaos. It's psychology. Today we're exploring the psychology of people who love starting over, the ones society often calls restless or unstable. But science sees as adaptive, resilient, and surprisingly strategic. To the outside world, it looks reckless. Why can't you just stick with something? Why can't you finish what you started? But for the person starting over, staying feels heavier than leaving. Psychologists call this self-concept reconstruction. Some people grow by adding layers. Others grow by shedding identities that no longer fit. And here's the first truth most people miss. Starting over isn't about escape. It's about alignment, about letting your inner self match your outer life. Think about it. When you've spent years being someone you no longer recognize, living in a city that doesn't energize you, working in a job that drains you, keeping relationships that feel obligatory, starting over suddenly looks like clarity. It's not rebellion, it's self-preservation, because some people are wired to thrive in fresh beginnings, not in worn-out routines. Starting over gives something rare, relief from expectations. No old labels, no one telling you who you are, what you can do, or what you must become. When you start fresh, the only person whose opinion matters is the one you see in the mirror each morning. For highly self-aware individuals, the past isn't painful, it's restrictive. Not because it was bad, but because it no longer represents who they've become. There's also a deeper neurological reason why some people love to reset. Research in psychological flexibility, the ability to adjust your thinking, emotions, and behavior to new situations, shows that people who thrive in change are better at coping with uncertainty. They don't panic when everything familiar falls away. They see endings as opportunities, as experiments in growth. And here's what society often misunderstands. Starting over isn't always dramatic. It doesn't always involve packing your bags or moving to another country. Sometimes it's quiet, changing a routine, ending a habit, redefining boundaries, or simply choosing a new perspective. For these people, life is a laboratory, and each restart is a hypothesis. Will this feel better? Will this reflect who I truly am? Starting over is also about control. For people who have experienced unpredictability, chaos, or emotional instability, reinvention is a strategy. It restores agency. You choose your environment. You choose your schedule. You choose who you want to become. You are no longer at the mercy of past circumstances. You are actively authoring your life. Of course, there's a shadow side. Starting over can sometimes be avoidance. Some people leave situations before confronting the discomfort that needs healing. They reset instead of repairing, run instead of reflecting. The difference between healthy reinvention and avoidance is intention. Ask yourself, are you starting over to evolve or to hide? The psychology of healthy starting over is fascinating. Studies show that people who reset their lives deliberately tend to be more creative, resilient, and adaptable. They're not chaotic, they're experimental. They embrace the unknown and tolerate uncertainty better than most. And they often discover versions of themselves they never imagined. Think about famous examples. Writers who moved across the world to find their voice. Entrepreneurs who failed spectacularly and then built entirely new empires. Artists who abandoned one style to create something entirely different. Starting over isn't failure, it's mastery over the self. And there's an emotional component too. Starting over allows for closure, not forced closure, but real closure. It's saying goodbye to the old you, the old mistakes, the old patterns, and giving yourself permission to redefine what matters. This is something most people never do. Most people cling to identity as if it were a life raft, even when it's slowly sinking. Here's another reason people love to reset. Novelty stimulates the brain. New experiences, new challenges, new relationships. All of this releases dopamine, the chemical of motivation and pleasure. Some people crave this internal refresh button so strongly that the predictable feels suffocating. For them, staying the same is worse than risk. But here's the beauty. People who start over frequently are also highly reflective. They think about why they left, what worked, and what they want next. This introspection builds wisdom, self-trust, and resilience. Starting over becomes less about escape and more about strategy. It's a thoughtful approach to life, disguised as spontaneity. And society often mislabels them: restless, impulsive, unstable. But science says otherwise. These people are adaptively flexible, self-aware, and growth-oriented. They are learning how to live life on their own terms, not someone else's timeline. So if you've ever rebuilt your life, your habits, your career, or even just your perspective, you're not running. You're evolving. You're not chaotic. You're strategic. You're not unstable. You're wired for renewal, for flexibility, for growth through intentional change. Ask yourself, do I start over because I want alignment, or because leaving feels easier than facing myself? Because the first is powerful. The second is temporary. Understanding this difference is crucial for anyone who has felt the pull of reinvention. When it's done with intention, starting over isn't quitting. It's authorship. It's declaring, I'm allowed to edit my story, rewrite my habits, and redefine my life whenever it no longer fits me. People who embrace this know something few others do. Life is less about staying comfortable and more about staying true to yourself. So tell me, do you believe in starting over, or do you think people should always finish what they start? The next video is going to dive even deeper, explaining why some people reinvent themselves over and over again. And once you see it, you won't look at your own resets the same way ever again.